How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Everything.
Everything is good. You got a little cloud cover, it seems, huh?
Yeah.
Cool down practice a bit.
Feeling like Seattle right now. Yeah.
Just a light drizzle would really be fitting.
We'll take that. What did you see, Heath, from your two kickers on Thursday night?
I saw some good stuff. You know, we put Ryan in a really tough spot, but I think that's what preseason's about. We challenge him. Hey, that's a 60-yarder. That's a tough kick. Those are tough positions to be put in, and it was close. You know, that's part of the deal. Love to have him make it. That would have been a good start to the preseason, but that's part of the deal. You know, we'll see. We're going to challenge him again today with some not only kicks in team periods, but also move the ball situations. Just kind of a little more pressure. Whole team's watching. You guys are watching. The GM's watching. That kind of thing. So. That's part of, that's part of the process of just evaluation. I thought Elliott did a really good job as well. That's a good kick in the fourth quarter, and then had a good kickoff as well. So right now those guys, we like where they're at. You guys see a couple kicks, but we're charting them on the other side of the field all practice, and so we have a really good idea of where they're at. What things we need to work on, what we could see us doing this season. So right now it's a dead heat. They're both doing a good job, and I believe the guys in this camp that could win the job. But it's up to them. What they do with these next practices / preseason game is going to determine that.
Coach, when you took this job, I'm wondering if you took one look at Logan and said, well, punter is one position I don't have to worry about, and then he just comes right out of the gate the other night. Kicked some long ones when you needed it, kicked a couple of short ones, and put it inside the 10 when you needed it. So that's like your least concern right now is your punter, isn't it?
Yeah, when I took this job, there were several guys I was excited about. I was excited about Ross. I was excited about our returner, and then obviously Logan. And Logan's been a talented player in this league. From watching from afar, and he's exceeded expectations. You saw that on display on Thursday night. He's super talented. He did a good job with his directional. That's a big deal for us. Is he was getting him out there really far, good hang times, but the width. I mean, he was burying him on the sidelines. That really kind of condenses those returns and really helps the coverage units. Rudy had a good play on the sideline, and it was a fantastic release, gunner rep, but it was a big part of what Logan did of burying him on the sideline. So that's how they work together. But I think. That's a big part of this team is that punting game of not only Logan but the coverage down the field.
Do you like to go both guys will kick in the same game, or do you like to give one guy a game either way? And what's the better approach that you like?
The first game we did every other kick because I was trying to get them to evenly. I was scared that we'd get one guy got 4 kicks and the other guy got 1, and not a true evaluation. This week we're going to switch up the order because they're both doing so well. Let's see what that looks like. We're going to go every other kick again this week and see what that looks like. I may reevaluate it next week depending on, again, same thing. Are we getting it was one guy getting all extra points, the other we're getting field goals. I may have to adjust it, on the fly, but that's the plan for the week is just kind of see where they're at, 1 for 1, see what those kicks look like, as well as kickoffs.
What have you thought about the backup returners? Snoop Connor got a lot of reps there during the game. How's that battle looking? What have you thought about those guys?
Yeah, we have a good group. Obviously Agnew is an elite returner in this league, and then we have a couple of guys. Christian Kirk can do it. Laviska's been back there, and he's done a good job with. He's improved tremendously, tracking the ball, seeing the ball better. He's a talented player, and if he suits up Thursday night, I would have loved to get him some returns. So if he plays this week, I'd love to get him back there. That's something the staff and I have to decide if this is the game to do it. But there's a chance he could be back there. And then the kick return or battle, I thought Snoop did a good job. There's some stuff we're still working through. You hate to see that ball in the ground, but he did some good stuff. I mean, he ran hard, didn't slow his feet. That's something you see as a young returner when those bullets are flying and those guys are flying down the field. You see him kind of hesitate. When it's cloudy, he hit it really hard. So I thought he did some good stuff as well.
Can you talk a little bit about what Logan's athleticism allows you to do beyond simply punting?
I mean, the fake deal is real. He throws the ball like a quarterback out here. He's the He prides himself on telling me he's the emergency quarterback. I will see if that plays out that way, but he is a talented player that can do everything. He can run fakes. He's a great holder. That's been a pleasant surprise for me. I knew he was a good holder. He's even better than I thought. That's something that we can't overlook because it helps those kickers so much. Just setting the table. He's the caddy. He's the guy that has to put it in the right spot every single time, turn the laces if needed. So the athleticism is a big factor at that position, not only punting but holding / any other things we ask him to do.
Have you coached a gunner like Rudy Ford before? It just seems like he always gets down there, incredible speed.
He's one of the top gunners in the league. I have coached a couple guys very similar. Tywan Jones in Buffalo was very good. Saran Neal had 2 good gunners there as well. But Rudy, those reps we had, that he did the other night, were special, and I've seen him across the league, going back to Arizona, and then also Philly. He's been doing it a long time, so I've seen many gunner reps like those.
The versatility of a 4-core player. What does it take for a young guy to prove that to you, and how many do you think you have at this time?
I think we're figuring those guys out right now. Versatility is going to be big because if you get a guy that only can play left guard on punt, it's a little tougher. Now, if a guy can go to left side to right side to play wing, that's what we need, and they got to be trusted. Trusted's the biggest factor, especially in the punt game. If I could just rely on that guy, his guy's never gonna get a block. Gonna block the right guy 100% of the time. That's value. I think I put such a big emphasis on punt protection. I say, hey, all these other phase are great, but you really want to impress me, you better protect on punt, because that's the biggest thing. That's how you lose ball games if you don't protect the punt. So again, that's trust. Trust is the biggest factor.
Have any of the young players been able to earn that trust yet?
We have a couple young players. I'll start with 2 gunners that have done really well, Josh Thompson and Monteric Brown. Those guys have really stepped up and really shown some stuff. They've improved tremendously from the off season to training camp. We put them in some tough battles yesterday against some good players, and they battled. It's a work in progress as far as we got some time, but we're going to continue to challenge those guys because I think they can do it. They're talented enough players. They care. They work hard. They come into my office. They want to learn. That's what I'm looking for. So we'll put them in those tough spots. They'll get more gunner reps this week, not only in practice but on Friday night. So we got to see if they can do it. See if they can do it for real life Sunday regular season games.
Thanks, Coach.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Come on, guys.
What's up, Russ?
How we doing?
What did you think about Jake Luton the other night?
Yeah, I thought there's some good and bad that comes with obviously your first time out there running the offense, and that's kind of where we're at. We continue to want to see what we see in practice and all that out on the field when there's less controlled variables, all that. Obviously he's live in those types of situations, so there's good, there's bad, there's a lot to learn from, and we're excited for the next opportunity out.
Luke Fortner and Walker Little played a half last game. What did you see from them, and what do you like from them moving forward?
Yeah, I thought both did a good job of, first things, they look like they belong. They won too big for them. It wasn't a moment that they weren't ready for. I thought Luke specifically played really fast. He identified things well. Now, there are some things that you don't spend as much time scheming and game planning in the preseason games as you do, obviously, in the regular season. So there were some times that maybe a front presented itself that wasn't something we had gone over before. They played a different personnel grouping, and maybe you don't know the personnel as well as you would in a normal week. So there was a couple things that we maybe misidentified. But in terms of just communication, recognition, play speed, he did a good job. Now, there's things that we're obviously looking for him to improve upon as he goes forward, and that's what we'd expect out of a young player. But he did nothing to diminish our excitement for his ability. And then I thought Walker was really calm in his pass sets. He did a really good job communicating with the guys next to him, just kind of being on the same page and not getting overeager on some things. And it was a good showing for him.
Do you think we'll see Trevor Trevor?
Say that again.
Do you think we'll see Trevor?
We'll see. That's still stuff we're getting into. Yeah, but there's a chance, but we'll continue to have those conversations.
Doug described the game plan as intentionally vanilla. What's the next step now to build off of that going into this next preseason game?
Yeah, there's always the fine line of, we want to put our guys in situations to see them execute things they know really well. So when you're playing the young guys, you're going to keep it vanilla and see, okay, it's you on him, let's line up and play, see how you run the route we put in day one. Can you execute it with the technique we've asked you to do? Does it all fall apart when all of a sudden there's a guy standing across from you? And at the same time, you want guys to run the offense the way you believe it could be, to see, evaluate, can this guy do this when we ask him to? But, maybe there's not all the bells and whistles. We're not scheming it up. We're not putting a ton of wordy calls in there to make sure we have the right play all the time. Sometimes it's, let's figure out some problems here. But let's see your technique play against another opponent. So there's always the fine line, and I would say early on there's portions where it probably is pretty vanilla, and you just want to see guys go out and execute. But that's just kind of something we'll continue to work through as the preseason goes on.
When you look at that wide receiver room, what's your evaluation of some of the young players, guys like Tim Jones, Jeff Cotton, that are really battling to make this roster?
Yeah, those guys, they definitely are. They're battling. They're in the conversation for it. There's going to be a lot of factors involved. You kind of want to see as you get through to the 4th, 5th, 6th receiver, what their versatility can be. You know what I mean? You come in, you assume you have this starter, that starter, that starter. If somebody goes down, who can fill in? Do you fill in one spot? Can you fill in multiple spots? Do we have to move 3 guys to get you where you're comfortable? And then at the same time, if all things go well and you have 3, 4 really established receivers that are playing well, that 5th guy, sometimes his value becomes more special teams. There's not a lot of reps from a receiver standpoint, so who steps up? What is Heath and Luke's opinion of that guy and his ability in special teams, and how can he contribute to the team if he is to get that jersey on a Sunday?
You have the idea of how you want to deploy and mix and match Trevor and Travis, and James Robinson, or is that something that you wait until you get an idea of how much you can use James early?
Yeah, it's definitely that. We have a vision for what we hope it is. You kind of always envision what you're going to do when everybody's healthy, but until we get to that point and we see everybody in there and everybody's available on game day, then you kind of just have to go with what you have and that particular availability for that game. So until James gets fully cleared, that's something we'll continue to do the best to work through the process we believe it's going to be, but you kind of have to work through the pieces to get to that point as well.
What kind of player is Luke Farwell? In college he didn't catch a whole lot of passes. He led the team in receiving in the last preseason game. You've thrown him a handful of passes here. What kind of tight end or what kind of player do you see when you look at Luke Farwell?
Luke's not somebody I knew a ton about, honestly, before I got here, but he's somebody that's a very versatile piece for us. We feel like he can be that in-line blocking tight end, but also has some ability to get out in the open field and run and catch and do some things with it. You saw that the other day. He had a big play down the sideline, and then I know you guys all skipped practice yesterday, but he had a couple big plays out here as well, catching the ball and running with it and doing some good things. So we're excited about where he is. He's still a young player, got a long way to go in this league to prove himself, but we're excited about where he is in the grand scheme of that. Sorry.
How much comfort did it bring you the other day just to see Travis, take the big hit, and it didn't seem like any big deal.
No,
he welcomed it.
There were a couple hits that he took on the sideline I probably didn't want him to take, but he was, we all kind of said, you're allowed to step out right there. That's a tough situation. He said he wanted to take a hit and see what it felt like and all that. So somebody described it as it's the kind of hits you take or you see in the football movies. So he got smoked one of those times on the sideline, but he bounced up. He was perfectly fine, and there's definitely a different intensity to yesterday's practice, and guys enjoyed it and responded well.
What did you see from Snoop Conner on Thursday night on offense?
Yeah, Snoop did a good job carrying the football. One of the things you don't control a lot of situations, but you want to see him in pass protection. There weren't a lot of those opportunities for him or for us to see him in those situations. And again, that's part of we're vanilla, they're vanilla. There's not a lot of blitz schemes. So that's something we didn't get to see from him, but I thought he did a good job. And again, a guy that it wasn't too big for him, you know what I mean? And his first time out there looked like he belonged, carried the ball well at times. And I think they're getting kind of their feet wet in terms of the speed of the game. Now, I'm not going to pretend like preseason 1 is going to feel like week 1 and how the speed of things and the intensity is, but for those guys, it's definitely a step up from what you can create in practice. So it was good to see that carry over.
For starting quarterback, how valuable are practice reps compared to preseason? Just because they might see more exotic looks and different types of situations in practice than they might in a preseason game.
Yeah, we can. I think just controlling the environment. Now, obviously, they're not live, and nothing replaces a quarterback being live, knowing he can be hit and feeling that pass rush. But we can put them in a million situations and control it. We will do 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, back to back to back, and long yardage situations, talk through everything. You get a chance to put the situations you want to coach off out here on the field, see how he responds, go back to the room, talk about it. So they're invaluable from that standpoint, from a learning standpoint, and they learn from everybody. You know, we put whoever it is, whether it's CJ, Jake, Kyle, Trevor, any of those guys, they're learning from the situation the other one was in that particular one, or we could just be watching a film of an old game, something like that, and talking through certain things. So when you get those opportunities to put those situations in front of the guys, that's a great learning opportunity that we can't take for granted.
Heath mentioned that LaVisca may take some reps at punt returner. In terms of your scheme, in terms of the wide receiver room, where do you see him fitting in right now?
Yeah, that's something, you know, we got to continue to make sure LaVisca's healthy and available for us at all times, so we can continue to see exactly what we think his skill set is. We have a vision, certainly, like we mentioned earlier, for what the role could be for him. But that's just something we got to continue to work through, and hopefully that comes up in game situations, competitive practice situations, and we can really see if that's what we want it to be.
Is it a challenge when you got two guys like LaVisca and Jamal Agnew, two guys who are somewhat specialty players, like you can do a lot of different things with them? Is it a challenge to get them on the field and not tip your hand because they're not your starting three?
Certainly, yeah, and that's something you got to be a great self-scout type of team or operation. So that's something we got to know who's on the field, how we utilize them, what we're showing to the defense, what they're seeing when they watch us, to make sure you're not tipping your hand like you're saying. But as long as they're good players and being productive, then that's a good problem to have.
Do you start now trying to figure out, I mean, you haven't had Agnew yet.
Right.
Do you start now trying to figure out where does this guy really fit? How do I utilize him best?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, Heath mentioned it. He's one of the more elite returners in the league, so there's definitely a skill set. You want to get a guy like that to football, and you want to get it in space and kind of turn these offensive plays into punt returns for him whenever you can. But same deal. You got to make sure you're doing right by your offense and not giving anything away to the defense, because that's kind of one of the advantages we have, is we know where the ball's going. So we got to do everything we can to not give that advantage away to the defense. So.
What sort of growth have you seen from Ben Barch?
Ben's done a great job. Ben played pretty well the other day in terms of just communication, and there weren't a lot of flash plays, good or bad. You know what I mean? He was just steady. He was consistent. He did a good job with the guys next to him. And again, it wasn't an exotic blitz scheme from those guys. It was their day one install probably in terms of pressures and things like that. So you expect your guys to identify things, respond well. You still got to manage games and stunts, and it's still physical. It's still a 300-pound man trying to get to the quarterback. So you got to do a good job in that, or you got to get to the second level and fit up some runs. But those guys did a good job. And first time out, it was encouraging to see, but there's a lot of growth that's going to come from those guys that we're excited about.
Thanks, Russ.
Thanks, guys.
What's going on? How we doing?
The level of physicality yesterday in practice, was that a direct result of what you guys saw on the field the other night, or was it planned? Does it take the place of preseason game? How do you look at?
I think anytime you go live and you go live in practice, it's going to be that type of practice. You're going to get out there, guys are going to compete, and they're doing a great job of just getting out there, working hard, and making each other better. But the physicality, that's what you expect. Offense giving us a good look, and we're trying to do the same thing for them.
What have you seen from Andre Cisco? And I mean, when you see his physicality yesterday, a guy that, I mean, kind of made his bread in college, getting his hands on the football, does that kind of give you a little bit more flexibility? You have a safety that can play deep, play in the box, move all over the field.
Oh, it really does. You look at a game, we had a run that popped out, and he was able to get a guy down, nice tackle. So you just see that over and over. But the main thing from him is, like you talked about, him being able to impact the game by his range in the secondary. He can cover sideline to sideline, and he's a big plus for us back there.
After going back and looking at the tape, what did you see from Trayvon Walker? Obviously, he got the sack. What did you like?
Really, you just like to get off. Early on in the game, first play of the game, he got off, used his power. You saw the power, hit the quarterback. Now, we stay away from the quarterback's head, but, the call is the call. We'll live with that, but we just want to see him continue to get better, continue to work his moves, build his toolbox, and we're happy so far.
Obviously, no Devin Lloyd, no Aluakon on Thursday. What did you see from the linebackers that did play, and also do you have an update in terms of timetable for Devin? Really,
no update yet. He's working. You see him out here moving around. We'll let that situation take care of itself. But as far as the linebackers, you're going into a game, unscouted team, a different look. there was a bunch of positives and a lot of things we can learn from and work on. So that group, they just continue to build, continue to work, and we're happy so far.
Screens have kind of been the Achilles heel of this franchise for the last few years. Obviously, you know, the Raiders had success with it on Thursday. How do you counter and how do you get over that hump?
You just talk about it situationally, understand when they happen, when they occur, and then it's just effort getting to the ball. Somebody has to make a play, whether it's the defensive line or the guys in coverage, buying time for the defensive line to retrace. But that's a focus that we'll work on, and we'll get better at it.
What kind of camp is Tyson Campbell having for you?
If you look at it, you see not a lot of balls caught his way. He's doing a real good job as far as staying on top of receivers and really locking guys down. So we've been pleased with him. You saw in the game he came up, set the edge a couple of times. So far he's doing good.
How big is it getting Foley Fatukasi back in the fold? You know, yesterday it seemed like he had a few plays where he was able to disrupt things.
It's good to get him back so he can start the show and put his imprint on the defense. He's been out a while with the injury, so now he's working his way back, and it's just good to get him back out there and let him continue to work on the new techniques he's learning and just continue to get better.
What were your thoughts after free agency and the draft on the depth of the pass rush, and is your view of that different now that you've seen it live in practice?
Really, some of the additions we had, you understand what they've done in the past and understand the way they can affect the quarterback. So we were pleased to get a couple of guys, and just as we go forward, we're just going to continue to build that group. We have a bunch of guys that can get after the quarterback, so focus on stopping the run, then being able to turn them loose.
What's been your follow-up to that? Could you just talk a little bit about both Smoot and Chason in terms of where they are right now?
Really, both those guys are, again, pieces that you can use in the pass rush game, and just like everyone else, they're getting better day by day, learning what we're working with other guys along that line, different matchups, different groups working together. So it's still a work in progress, but we're continuing to get the reps and getting better.
When do you expect Darius Williams to be full go, back in team drills, ready to go for you guys?
That timetable is really still up in the air. He's progressing good. You see him out here moving around, had the pads on. It's just him getting back, and when the medical staff says he's ready to go, he'll be ready to go.
In the meantime, since Darius isn't out there, what have you seen from Trey Herndon and what he's been able to do at that position?
You see, he's played the position before. He's had success at it, and you see him in coverage. You see that he understands his leverage, understands his technique, and then yesterday you saw on the sideline, pretty good tackler. So, happy with that.
What did you see from Chad Muma and Shaquille Quarterman in the starting lineup on Thursday?
Just some young guys out there flying around. It's tough when you're playing special teams. You're working your way into shape. I thought those two guys did a good job of handling the defense, making the plays that presented themselves to them, and then just as an overall group, just getting better.
Did you think the physicality up front was a little lacking on some of those Josh Jacobs runs where there were big holes?
It was a couple of times where we misfit runs, and again, it's a learning situation. We'll get back at it, understand the film. Unscouted team will understand the runs that they will try to hit us with and be prepared for them.
Where's Gregory Jr. at right now, and what does he need to show you?
He's another young guy that's making plays. He's doing a good job on special teams. He's playing well for us. He's just a guy that the more reps of the young guy, the better you get, and he's continuing to get those reps.
Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you.